Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Welcome back. It is Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss, Paulie Howard. We are live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort Casino. Big game 2 tonight coming up, Stanley Cup Final from Edmonton, as the Oilers are small favorites against the Florida Panthers. And we head out here to the Progressive guest line to go to that site as Derek Van Diest joins the program now, covers the Oilers and the NHL for NHL.com. Derek, good to talk to you today. Thanks for the time. How are you?
I'm good, doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You bet. So the series price, when it originally opened, the betting price, it was basically a pick'em, and then sportsbooks started to take a little bit of money on the Oilers. They turned into a small favorite. And then as we saw game 1 play out, and I had this thought, the market totally agreed, like this is a pretty dead even series. Game 1 reflects that, I think, as well. Do you think most games in this 7-game series will play out like that, with these teams being about dead even?
I think so, but I do think there will be, I think this series is going to go long. I think it'll be a 6 or 7 game series, but I do think there'll be 1 or 2 games in there where one team will really get everything rolling and the other team won't be able to get anything going. Kind of like we saw last year. There was a couple of lopsided wins along the way, but I think it will be tight. But I do think that there'll be a game where Edmonton, for example, gets 3 power play goals and they win 4-1 or 5-1, or Florida the other way around. They get going, they get rolling, and they win 3 or 4-1. So I do think there's a couple of those games in there, but the margins are very tight. They're like these teams. If you look at the rosters, up and down the rosters, and you look at the star power, they're very, very close. And then I think you couldn't get a better matchup in the Stanley Cup Final than the Edmonton Oilers and Florida Panthers. And not only that, they're both experienced playoff savvy teams. You don't have a young team trying to make a name for itself, maybe like the Oilers were last year. I think you have 2 really savvy playoff teams that know what it takes to get here, know what it takes to win. And I think that's what makes this matchup so intriguing, is that it's not basically David and Goliath, it's Goliath and Goliath kind of going at each other here.
Well said. Did you like Edmonton's game in game 1, and especially how they started out and fell behind 3-1 before the strong finish?
I did. I thought they did well, and I think there's going to be ebbs and flows, and I think they were prepared for that. They're not going to dominate 60 minutes. Florida's not going to dominate 60 minutes. So there's going to be times where the Panthers get pinned in their own zone, and there's going to be times where the Oilers get pinned in their own zone. And I think the Panthers did well to kind of battle back in that game and take the lead. But you could get a sense that they weren't going to be able to shut down the Oilers. Just the way the Oilers were kind of pressing and moving the puck. And then they did put Draisaitl and McDavid together. So that's always something that you have to contend with. So it wasn't surprising that they came back. And in overtime, anything can go either way, but the Oilers kind of dominated that overtime. And I just think that they were a little fresher in that overtime period. They've been sitting at home for a week. Obviously, Florida had to travel, so that in tight games like that, I think that does come into play. And I thought the Oilers utilized their bench a little better than Florida did. They played the 6 defensemen relatively evenly. Florida kind of played 4 guys a little heavier. So I think when games go like that a little longer, I think you just do start feeling it in the legs. So it'll be interesting to see Florida's response tonight.
Then how about this? So both teams had plenty of shots on goal in game 1. This is before it went to overtime. And the result was, 6 combined there before overtime, and then the 7th one, and that would hence put it over the total. Do you think it plays out like that tonight as well, where we're going to get, the chances are going to be there and the shots on goal are going to be plentiful for both teams?
Yeah, I think so. I just think they both teams have so much offense. They have so many good players that can generate shots. They can create their own shot. I think that's the key here, is that they have so many dynamic players on both sides of the puck. I thought Sam Bennett was fantastic. He's a guy that not afraid to take players on. Tkachuk is the same way. Sasha Barkov is the same way. And the Oilers, of course, have McDavid and Draisaitl and guys like that aren't afraid to take players on one-on-one. So I think when you have teams with that, I think you're going to have a high shot total. You're going to have a lot of opportunities in the net. And then you look at both goalies, I think they're both very good. They both played very well, and there were 7 goals scored in the game. Mm-hmm. So I think the higher the shot volume, the more likely you are to score. So I think the teams are getting pucks to the net, getting people to the net, creating traffic. That's how you beat good goalies. And I think that's the strategy going into the day. Just try and get as many people in front of the net, throw the puck at the net, and hopefully get a lucky bounce here or there.
I think that was a little bit fluky in game 1. Did you think that was goalie interference on Bennett?
Yeah, I thought it was, but to me, that's a reputation thing. Like Sam Bennett is a guy, he's a greasy guy. Every team needs guys like that. The Oilers have guys like that as well. Corey Perry's one of them. Sam Bennett's a greasy guy. He's backing into the net and accidentally on purpose falls into the goalie. And it was just one of those situations, right? I think they gave him the benefit of the doubt. But based on reputation, this is a guy that probably shouldn't get the benefit of the doubt. And like I said, both teams have guys like that. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. They're greasy guys. They get under goalie skins. You're trying to kind of create that kind of havoc. I thought had the Oilers defenseman stepped into him and tripped him, it would have been a little different thing. But if he's backing into someone and, accidentally trips over someone's skates and then takes 3 steps backwards and falls into the goalie, I think that should have been taken accounted for. But obviously the referees took a look at it, and good on them for not making a call based on reputation, because I think everyone's like, oh, that's Sam Bennett. He's done it in the past. I think they were just looking at the play and seeing, okay, what do we think happened on the play? And that's how they called it. But yeah, that to me, that could have easily been a reputation call. We've seen him do this before. It's not a surprise, but that's what makes him effective. He's a guy like that. I thought he had an excellent game one, but I thought it was goaltender interference. And we asked Chris Knobloch about it, and he said, I would challenge that 10 out of 10 times.
Damn right.
Because I thought it was goaltender interference as well.
Yep. It's funny you said that too. That's what Lundqvist said at the end of the first period on a broadcast about the guy's history as well. Did Knobloch talk about this, or what would you do if you're Edmonton tonight? Would you give the Stars extra ice time with the day off? Extra day off?
I think, that's a very good point. You're right. You have 2 days off between games, and so you can increase their ice time. And I do think a lot of that will have to do with how the situation is, how the game is playing. But yeah, that's a very good point by you, because they have the extra days to rest. It's going to be a long travel day tomorrow, but you have that extra day. So I think if they get into a situation where they fall behind, you're going to see a lot of McDavid and Draisaitl come over the boards. Chris Knobloch likes to play them together, particularly when they're behind. He likes to play them together in situations after penalty kill. He puts them out together. After the Oilers penalty kill, he puts them out together to try and generate some momentum. On an icing, he likes to get them together, particularly if it's a fourth line out there. He'll throw them out there together. After a TV timeout, maybe he'll try and get them out there together. So, yeah, that's a very good point. I think he's looking at that going, we have 2 days to recover from this. So, yeah, I can see those guys, their minutes being up significantly tonight.
Derek, if that does come to fruition, then should we all be betting Leon Draisaitl to score a goal again? He scored the last in game one, 2 more. He's been awesome in the playoffs. He's plus 115 in that neighborhood to score a goal tonight.
Yeah, that's a safe bet. And I think it's a situation where, particularly if he's playing with Connor McDavid, these two guys have been playing together for so long. They have almost a cosmic connection that one knows where the other's going to be. And I think the big thing with Draisaitl, he's got such a quick and he's got a quick shot that's really deceptive, because just the way he shoots it, you don't know what part of the stick it's coming off from, and you have no idea where it's going. I think that's what makes him so effective. He has a couple of particular spots, but he's got a very effective one-timer. It's not necessarily hard, but it's so accurate. And I think he's one of the most accurate players off a one-timer. He can pick those corners. So, yeah, that's a safe bet. If you're picking a guy to score for the Edmonton Oilers, Leon Draisaitl would be the guy you'd pick to score. Yeah. He's the only 50-goal scorer in the league this year. So, he's showing off what he can do and how effective he can be.
To your point, when McDavid found him with that beautiful pass for the game winner, McDavid knew it was good. Like, he didn't even have to look.
Yeah.
Like it was like a no-look pass for an alley-oop dunk. He knew LeBron was going to get, throw it down with 2 hands, and it was going to be the game winner. What about the same? You brought his name up a couple of minutes ago. Sam Bennett. Been awesome in the playoffs. Leads everybody in goals. Had 2 in game 1. He's like plus 230 to score a goal tonight. Do you like him?
Yeah, I do. I do like him, because I'll tell you what. We saw a lot of Sam Bennett in Edmonton when he was with Calgary, and this is a different guy, like the completely different player when he went to Florida, whether he kind of matured or whether he just developed, was a late developer, or whether the Panthers are utilizing him in a different role. He was fantastic. He was all over the ice. He's one of those guys that you noticed every shift, whether he was hitting somebody, whether he was making a play, whether he was getting a shot on net. He's like, oh, Sam Bennett's on the ice. And I think when that happens, you're being effective. And he's really kind of rounded out his game here, and he's really kind of developed into one of the top players in the league. I was so impressed with him because of what I saw in Calgary. I thought in Calgary it was there, but it didn't come out. So I think he's obviously a good bet to score for the Panthers. He's on a roll, and it's goal scoring is like scoring in basketball. When you're hot, you're feeling it. You want the puck. You want to shoot the puck. Mm-hmm. You want to get into those spots, and I think he's doing that right now.
Final score tonight, what do you think?
Well, like I said, I think it's going to go one of two ways, but I do think that the Oilers, that just the atmosphere and the energy in the building, they'll feed off that. I think they're going to win 4-2, 5-2, something like that. I think they're going to win going away. I just think there's a lot of offense there, and the opportunity to go up 2-0 in the series is really enticing. Like I said, I'm really interested to see what Florida has in the tank. That they went through a couple of tough series to get here, but they have a lot of pride in that team. They have a lot of skill on that team, and they do have an outstanding goalie who stole a couple of games from him last year in the final. He's capable of doing that. He's capable of really frustrating the Oilers. So if Sergei Bobrovsky has a big game, I can see it going the other way. But I think it's going to be going away. I think 4-2 or 5-2 for the Edmonton Oilers tonight.
Very good. You can follow Derek on X. He's at Derek Van Diest. Does a great job covering the sport, NHL.com. Thanks, Derek. Enjoy the game tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
You got it.
Yeah, and he was on the Progressive guest line.
Bennett's 18-1 at DraftKings, Conn Smythe.
I took a little bit of him today. Not at DK, but I found him another spot today, 18-1. Had to do it. I'll tell you, it's tough to find updated Conn Smythe numbers at multiple books. And I'll speak for the state of Nevada. I don't see a single book that offers updated NBA Finals MVP. Maybe they have since the show started, but...
They have Finals MVP, not Conn Smythe, though, you're saying. Or both?
It was rare to find Conn Smythe. I can't find NBA Finals MVP anywhere.
Real? Okay. Wow.
All right, today's MLB card is up next. This poor guy is on pace for 20 losses on the season, and another pitcher. It's screaming K's tonight for him.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Paul, how exciting is this? The best rivalry in all of sports starts a series tonight at Yankee Stadium. So we've been told for 100 years. It's the Red Sox and the Yankees. The poor Red Sox, 9.5 games out of first place. They have a plus 13 run differential, even though they're 4 games under 500. And they are 6-17 in one-run games. Taking on the Yankees, it's Buehler, anyone, against Warren. I'll give you this about Will Warren tonight for the Pinstripers. In 6 May starts, kid was really good, with one exception. He was over 5.5 Ks in 5 of those starts. It stayed under against the Dodgers last Saturday. He only had 2. He got roughed up against the Dodgers. It's L.A. You pick up the pieces, you move on. Opposing pitchers are 10-4 over their K-prop in the last 14 games against Boston. The Red Sox strike out 23.6% of the time. That's the 6th most. But hold on. That number goes all the way up to 27%. I'm rounding up versus righties on the road. 2nd highest mark in Major League Baseball. Right behind the Rockies. That's territory you don't want to be in. No surprise. Yeah. Will Warren's K-prop has been taking steam all day today. So 5.5 I saw get to like minus 175. But the kid's been really, really good.
I saw Adam get your shine box, likes the over tonight. And Yankees 8-1, last 9 series. Big favorites tonight. Buehler going against them since winning the World Series. Endeavors has been hot and has owned the Yankees. 385, 9 bombs, last 26 against New York. Always fun when these teams get together. Usually high scoring and long games. But Yankees on a run, Red Sox stinking up the joint.
So what do you want to do tonight with the Cubs taking on the Tigers, as it's a good pitching matchup? Brown takes on Skubal.
Damn right. How about your boy, by the way? PAC is on pace to go 42-55. Would that get it done? I would hope so. Get 42 bombs and have 55 bags.
I think he's also on pace for like 130 runs and 140 RBIs.
Yep. Well, this is you're paying a tax here. I mean, Skubal's the nuts, but you got the number 1 ERA in the American League against the number 1 team in runs. 5-0 with a 1.64 last 10. 14-1 with a 1.95 at home last 22. Yikes. But also, when he strikes out his first guy tonight, we go back to have 100 strikeouts and fewest walks to start a season. You'd go Kershaw. Had 5 in 2016. Cliff Lee in 2010. Jansen in 2017. They both had 7 walks after they got their 100 strikeouts. So that's what he can do tonight as well. A little bit of a funk. They had a bad job in that Chicago series, White Sox rather, what Detroit's coming off of. But you think they can get to Brown? I think they can get to Brown. I think Riley Green gets to Brown tonight.
Well, his K-prop is heavily juiced over 5.5. Opposing starters are on an 8-2 run over Detroit with their K-prop. Brown went over 5.5 in 4 out of his 6 May starts. The Tigers do strike out about 24% of the time against righties, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it was not a good week for Detroit this week. First time we've said that, I think, all year long, taking on a bad White Sox team. But I also think we just did this with the Cubs against a really, really good left-handed pitcher, right? 2 days ago, I made the case like Mackenzie Gore's awesome, but I could not bet him over 6.5 Ks. Well, his K-prop in that game was 6.5. He had 7. Skubal's K-prop tonight is 7.5. Here's the reason why I could not bet I could not bet Gore's K-prop over in that game and why I can't bet Skubal tonight. It's Chicago against lefties. They have the 4th lowest K rate, below 20% against lefties on the year. And now these numbers actually came back to the pack because they just took on Gore, and Gore was great against them. But they're still top 5 against lefties in WRC+, ISO, and top 6 in WOBA and OPS. 12 starts for Skubal, 8-4 over 7.5 Ks. And he went over that number in 5 out of those 6 starts that he had in May. If it was like plus 140, I would take it, but it's not, so I'm not going to. I'm also, like, the pitch count for Skubal.
Yeah, I know.
Are they going to let him go 75 pitches, or is it going to be 95?
Yeah.
I don't know on a game-to-game basis.
I don't mind it could be a lot of runs scored, but the total's 9.5 with the Reds and Diamondbacks. Rodriguez against Lodolo. The home run splits are incredible.
Yep.
Number 1, the Reds' pen's been awful. ERA of 7 the last 2 weeks. Lodolo, ERA of 6 and change at home. He's got a 1.25 on the road in 7 starts. So Diamondbacks on a mini winning streak here. And the incredible win against Atlanta, swept them. So I don't mind Arizona in a high-scoring game as well. And maybe first 5 team total over to touch up Lodolo, who's been awful on the road.
Yeah, it's a very batter-friendly ballpark tonight with those conditions. It typically is, but specifically when you get into the summer months. So I think we're going to have a little home run derby there in that game tonight. And you brought it up. So here's the breaking news with Arizona. Moments ago, Bob Nightingale with the tweet: Corbin Burns, the ace, who was supposed to be the ace, first year, 7-year, $210 million contract, will undergo Tommy John surgery next week. He will be out until at least late 2026.
Oh, boy.
That is brutal. And the lip readers out there said they knew it was going to happen when the pitching coach came to the mound the other day. He just said, "My arm's dead. I got nothing." He said I believe that words were, "My elbow is dead."
Really?
Yep. Boy, does that suck.
Yeah.
His former team, the Brewers, are in action tonight against the Padres. You mentioned this game a little bit earlier. Here's my breakdown of it. Chad Patrick goes in this game for the Brewers. He really hasn't had a bad start yet at all from Milwaukee. He's allowed exactly 3 runs, 3 different times, never more. Vasquez goes for the Padres. He's coming off of a really bad start against Pittsburgh. How many pitchers can you say that about in all of Major League Baseball this year? He might be the only one. And teams start to get to him the second time through the order. Patrick's ERA the first time through the order is 2.03. His overall numbers are much better than Vasquez. There's a reason why I'm telling you this. The second time through for Patrick is 2.54 with the ERA, 2.80 with the FIP. Patrick also very good at home for Milwaukee, a 2.37 ERA. Every underlying number, the FIP, WHIP, hard hit rate, very good. Vasquez on the road, 4.61 ERA. The FIP is higher than 5, a 1.50 WHIP, and he has a higher walk rate than strikeout rate. So based on all that, home road splits, first 5 numbers, first time through the order, second time through the order. The edge here clearly goes to Patrick. I laid a half a run in the first 5 at minus 110 with Milwaukee tonight.
Okay. Like the Brewers as well. They've won 9 of 10. Yelich hitting .430 last 11 games.
I played his total bases prop over tonight as well, plus money.
Some other numbers. As I said earlier, Freeman has incredible numbers, OPS in that ballpark in St. Louis, highest ever, 39 games. Edmonds hitting .444 against Sonny Gray. And Ward's 4 of 10 against Miller. Some numbers there. And how about what Falter's doing? Now, I don't know if I can't back the Pirates because they can't hit. But now this funk that the Phillies are in, Falter had an ERA under 1 in May with 6 starts and going against his former team. 8.5, and Joe Ross is $1.40 on the road. I don't know about that one.
And I just saw something here on Bryce Harper as well. He's day-to-day with the wrist issue. So, yeah, he's out tonight in that game.
Okay, yeah.
Not going to be playing. How about this? Here's the guy I was talking about before the break. We have to bring up the Rockies here, right?
Yeah, now they're playing games. Now it looks like Senzatella's scratched.
Oh,
so they're going with, who is it? Rollison? Ryan Rollison?
Oh, boy.
Senga's $3. Yep, no Senzatella. 10.5 the total.
All right. Well, that's unfortunate because Senzatella was on pace to have more than 20 losses this year.
Oh.
I did play. I'm copying. I'm tailing Mike Somich with this. He had a great write-up at vsin.com about how to try to make money against the Rockies. And it's tough because numbers are, to the moon. I mean, if you want to lay 2.5, 3.5 runs, go ahead. But, that's a tough bet to win in a baseball game. Plus money numbers are typically gone. He pointed out that there's still plus money tonight on some of these Mets players to have an RBI. Alonso's not, because Alonso is scorching hot right now with a couple of more bombs. He's like minus 130, minus 140. But Juan Soto plus 105 to simply have one RBI tonight in the game was a bet to me that I had to make. And he was running down recent series that the Diamondbacks had at home. And how many players in different starting lineups for the opposing teams had an RBI, and it was incredible how many guys get the job done. So it's up at vsin.com if you want to check it out.
Okay. And then Sears was scratched, and Kramer's $1.30 in Sacramento tonight, that launching pad, and he's from the area as well. See if the Orioles can stay hot. The $500 try from G-Bank First Bet and VSiN. All you need to do is open a G-Bank Visa Signature credit card in the first 90 days. Deposit and play through $1,000 at First Bet to trigger the $500 trifecta. $200 in cash back rewards on your G-Bank Visa Signature credit card. And First Bet gives you a $100 deposit match. VSiN completes the try with a free VSiN Pro subscription through August 31st, $200 value. That's the $500 try from G-Bank, First Bet, and VSiN. Go to vsin.com/GBank. One-time promotion limited to customers opening a new account in response to this offer. Terms and conditions apply. vsin.com/GBank.
We'll talk with Jeff from the sharpplays.com up next. He's been in this racket for a long, long time. He has seen a little bit of everything. I think we're going to be blown away at the amount of volume tennis betting does worldwide. And where has the sharp money been so far on the men's championship?
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Paulie, this is going to be a lot of fun. We've been going back and forth with this guy on social media for a long, long time. He was on the show when I was out recently. You had him on. It's Jeff from the Sharp Plays, a consultant for sports books and also a professional gambler at this point. And he's the person who was responsible for putting us on Mr. Poison all those years ago with the first period totals in the NHL. And he is on the Progressive guest line. Jeff, thanks for the time today. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited to do it. It was a blast the first time and glad to be back. Thank you for having me.
You bet. So you can probably talk about everything gambling related. Let's start here with the French Open now finishing up this weekend. And we had the men's semis earlier today, Jeff. Would people in general be stunned at the volume tennis betting does worldwide?
I would think so, because a lot of times when you talk to any regular gamblers in the United States, they go, I don't bet tennis, I don't follow it, I don't know anything about it. But tennis betting back in, say, 2010, where it is today is markets have 30 to 50 times the volume what they had in 2010. And it's because it's sort of like how soccer evolved in the U.S. It was mostly in Europe, and then the U.S. started to catch on, and then the money picked up because once people are watching sports, they want to gamble on it. Mm-hmm. And people often see tennis as I'll say easier way to bet because it's only two people playing against one another versus a team and a lot of different dynamics that you have to take into account. And it continually gets bigger and bigger. So if you have DraftKings on your phone, you're probably getting the promos about, Sabalenka and golf tomorrow. Don't forget to bet it because it's really, really picking up.
Nick Bogdanovich, when he was at William Hill, told me that years ago that you won't believe the handle on the in-play in what goes on random events in the middle of the night. I couldn't believe it.
Absolutely. If someone is up and awake, they want to gamble. You know, I mean, everybody, I consider myself a professional gambler, but I'm a degenerate deep down, and you always are looking for a little action. So they will jump on in play. And one of the things they will do, for everybody that's listening, don't do this. And that's whoever is winning in the tennis match at the time that you're watching, do not bet them in play, because that's where the volume really comes from, is people see a player getting broken and they will bet the person who's in the lead now, and they'll just hammer it. And all this flow comes in from everybody trying to chase the winner. And it's tennis, just like tennis, the ball going back and forth over the net. The action goes back and forth, and that player breaks. Now they're chasing on the other player. And the volume is incredible on in-play. It actually would rival, for example, in the French Open right now, the volume in that is bigger than a lot of the MLB games, except for maybe the premier game of the day, whoever it is, if it's two hot teams playing against each other. Tennis is twice that right now. And that's, pretty telling, because before that there was nothing.
What are some of the edges that the sharp bettors who and bet tennis, what are they looking for in that sport?
You like to look for fatigue, form, and injury. So you want to see some of the best players will go out of form, and the books really set lines based on a lot of name recognition, stuff like that, because that's what people are betting. But if a player is struggling, that's one of the things that sharps will attack, because someone will look and say, oh, Djokovic is playing, some no-name person, but maybe Djokovic has struggled in his recent matches, and Djokovic is still going to be a very high price. So everybody, public will flock to Djokovic. You can look at that on form. Injuries are huge. And I would say it's just another point, like not chasing on in-play. Look for books that allow retirements to be graded as a win, because a lot of sharp players, if you're following sharp action, they're going to play injury angles where a player is going to start that match, but they know there's an ankle injury. They know there's something in the background that nobody knows about, and that player likely won't make it through the match. So if you're betting on that opponent, you want the retirement rule, because that injury angle is huge. And unlike in the stock market, inside information in sports is not illegal, and people do play on it all the time, especially in tennis, especially injuries. The other, I like following Tiafoe. And anybody who follows the sharp plays knows that. I'm always looking at all of his matches. He is an easy one to see for fatigue. If he's looking tired in the current match, you want him to win that match, because the next match, come the second set, he's going to be gassed. And he will fade really hard, as he did in a couple of recent tournaments. And so they'll look at that fatigue angle as well, just by watching the current match. Anybody can do it. It's nothing secret there.
That happened today with the Alcaraz match. What are you seeing in terms of line movement or respected bets and all your contacts about Sabalenka Goff tomorrow, and then the men's on Sunday with Sinner and Alcaraz?
So on Sabalenka, the early sharp money was going on her. She is very good on clay, and I think that's going to continue as we go along here. The public money on it is pretty mixed right now. It's not overly, even though Sabalenka is minus 210 or minus 220, usually the public would flock to the big favorite. They aren't. It's a little split. So I think that's keeping the price in check and allowing the sharps to keep banging away on Sabalenka's price. Tomorrow, on Sunday, when we rotate to Sinner and Alcaraz, the early money right now is a little bit on Sinner. It's very small right now, so it's kind of tough to tell, because a lot of times in these tennis matches, when you have, even though it's the finals and the limits are a little bit better, they're going to be pegging on Sinner a little bit, and that could possibly drop the line, and then you see them hammer Alcaraz come Sunday morning. So it's tough to get a real read on it, but the early money is pointing to Sinner in that one.
Very good. It's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest is Jeff from the Sharp Plays and sharpplays.com. So other stuff that can be booked in faraway places that I wish was at legal sports books, such as, I don't know, the Little League World Series or high school football in Texas, or maybe even WrestleMania. How big is some of this stuff, or how big could it be if they actually, they took really big limits on it?
I mean, the one tough thing with Texas high school football, which actually was a big thing, but most of the books offshore would only allow, say, $200 or $250 limits because of the shenanigans that could go on. Same thing with WWE. It's usually, somebody tends to know the script or find something out. But the books are fine to offer those limits, because what they're doing is someone who's betting on The Undertaker to win on WWE, they say, oh, give him the $500 or give him the $200, give him the $50 win. That's fine. He'll be happy. He got to watch wrestling. He won his ticket. He'll give us that $200 back in a day or two. So don't worry about it. So you get lower limits, but people love that stuff. We've had people that want WWE for $5,000 or $10,000, which you never book, because obviously they might know somebody on the inside of what's going to go on. But in terms of things that the U.S. doesn't do, and this is one of my things that if I could do a lobbying effort, it would be to get election betting in the U.S.
Oh. Yes.
Election betting is huge offshore. The election this past year had higher volume than the Super Bowl this past year. Now, in fairness to the Super Bowl, you have 2 weeks, obviously, of betting that's allowed, whereas the election builds up over time, and especially that final year. But there were 20 or 30 six-figure bets on the election cycle just for the winner. Then you have states, you have electoral college over-unders, everything. It is huge. Books would make an absolute fortune on it. So you have something like that. You have Groundhog Day. People want to know is Phil going to see a shadow or not. Death Pool, that's a huge one that you always get requests in, but of course, books aren't going to take that action because, in essence, if a book is saying, sure, for example, we had a guy back in 2012 wanted $50,000 on Artie Lang that he was going to die that year. So you can't say we'll book that bet because you're essentially funding potentially Artie Lang to get killed.
Yeah.
So you can't have that out there.
Yeah. Did someone also request Tom Cruise?
Yes, I want to say it was about 5 to 8 years ago, somewhere in that window. Someone called up out of nowhere, didn't even have an account with the book, and said, "Can I get $100,000? Can I get odds for $100,000 on Tom Cruise to die this year?" You go, one, poor Tom. What's going to go on with him?
Yes.
Or is this the guy who's someone rigging him up to the plane because he does his own stunts, and maybe the clip is malfunctioning and the guy falls to the ground or whatever? So you take note of these things and you listen to it. Obviously, you wouldn't book it for $5 because of the issues there. But yeah, it's fascinating what comes in. Poor Jimmy Carter. They were betting on Jimmy. They wanted to bet Jimmy Carter every year for the past 10 years.
I bet.
Yeah.
Well, on Cruise, by the way, that could have been somebody that just thought to themselves, right, this guy's doing his own stunts. At some point, this is how he's going to die. And if he's going to make another Mission Impossible, I want to be on it the year that could happen.
Absolutely. I mean, he was on top of buildings hanging off, coming out of glass, planes, everything else. So, yeah, I think it could have been an educated bet as opposed to being some sort of hit situation.
That was a great a great story, what you told about WrestleMania, too, because our old friend Dave Malinsky told that story once, and he worked for an offshore. Guy called up, and he was a big loser, and he wanted $50,000 on a WrestleMania match. And they went back and forth about, should we give it to him? What should we do? But I liked your answer where it's like, no, it wasn't 50,000, but you give the guy 1,500, he's just going to give it back anyways if it hits. So who cares if he's got the information?
It's basically like a promotion. It's basically a free money promotion. The guy's giving the money back. You're giving him 500 or 1,000. And especially when you look at a lot of the players that are betting on this, they are unfortunately long-term losing bettors. Right. So what's 500 or 1,000 when the guy's giving you 20?
Hey, Jeff, in like 30 seconds here, how was the handle overall for the next Pope?
That was massive. It was probably, they had betting the last time, but it was 10, 15 times as much. People were hammering, and it was allowed at the book $5,000, $10,000 on different popes. None of those bets actually won. So you're wondering if somebody was getting information out of the conclave there, but nothing ever came out. But the big bets all lost, and nobody had Bob from Chicago except for a couple people who threw a couple bucks on it. But yeah, it was pretty wild. The volume was huge for the papal conclave, and it's these things where people don't know in advance really, and they really can't calculate value. Everybody just loves that rush. It's like the coin toss for the Super Bowl. People throw hundreds of thousands of dollars on that. It's a coin toss.
More with Jeff, sharpplays.com coming up next. Guy bet his entire wedding fund on a tennis match. His wife was not happy. A 6-figure cash deposit sent via FedEx. And also what happened in the state of Illinois and how that's going to help offshore books.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We continue here on Follow the Money with Jeff from the Sharp Plays, now a professional gambler. Great website, great handle on X as well, at the Sharp Plays. He's with us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Earlier this week, kind of overnight, trying to sneak it by everybody when they're in bed, Jeff, the state of Illinois passed some really silly laws that will ding operators in that state, illegal sports books, now 25 cents for every, I think it's the first 20 million bets. And then after that, it's going to be 50 cents every bet. At some point, that's going to impact bettors in that state. And at some point, other states will copy that model, which is just going to be bonkers. And to me, I think the offshore books and bookies have to be enthused with what they did. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, 100%. Since 2022, year-over-year growth offshore has gone up 10, 20% each year as we've gone along. Right after legalization, offshores took a big hit as people went into the U.S., wanted to bet DraftKings, FanDuel. But as they started changing the rules, they didn't do as many promos. They started upping the juice. It really moved people back to going offshore. And a lot of people think it's just sharp bettors going offshore, but it's regular public bettors who, in some states, they want to bet on college teams in that state, so they go offshore to do it. And there's a lot of reasons people are heading back offshore, but the big thing is what's going on as these states are trying to tax sports books into oblivion. And sports books have to pass that money along somehow, or that cost along somehow, and it's going on to the players. And what people don't realize, or some do, but obviously the big issue is people see a minus 110 line on a spread and they think, okay, that's the standard, or was the industry standard. If it's minus 115, that's no big deal. But at minus 110, you have to win 52.38% of your bets just to break even. At minus 115, just that extra 5 cents, you now have to win 53.49% of your bets to break even. And most sharp bettors who are really good in this business are winning 53 to 55% of the time. So you're a public bettor who's winning 50, 51, 52%. You're getting killed. You don't realize it because that nickel doesn't mean anything to you, but it really does in the long run. And that's, as bettors maybe start to wise up and see how their pocketbook is getting impacted, they're going to shop around, and a lot of and where they're going to be shopping to, because all these legal sports books are going to get hit, is probably back offshore or to local street bookies and place bets that way, which is, you just knew how it was going to go. It was going to be great when they got sports books legalized, but you knew eventually they're just going to keep sucking them dry for all the cash that comes in. That's what's happening. It's going to get passed on to the players, and where's it going to move people? And that's why local bookies really haven't gone anywhere lately.
A couple months ago, we discussed this story where a woman lost her husband. He passed away, and she called DraftKings, where the bets were made on the app, and Massachusetts Gaming voided the bets and gave her money back. Her husband bet over $100,000 in futures. It worked out for her. Celtics got shocked by the Knicks. Do you have a story similar or a bizarre incident where someone came in, tried to intervene with a weird story and a bet that was placed and tried to get it back?
Yeah, so we had, this goes back several years, but I was in the office of the GM one day. We're talking, a call gets pushed up to him, and this lady is on the phone saying, sir, my husband wired you our entire wedding fund. We need that money back. We have to pay that in 2 weeks. We don't have any other way to do it. Would you please send the money back? He's an idiot. I don't know why he did that. And she's being very composed about it. And our GM says, well, ma'am, his name was on the account. Technically, this is something you have to take up with him. We really don't get involved in this. This is something between the two of you. And he's like, well, I understand, but he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. He shouldn't have been doing that. And as she's talking to him, the match is actually going on. So I don't know how it got revealed at that time that, maybe he told her and said, hey, I put our wedding money on this guy. And so she gets the number, calls in. And as she's saying, sir, could we please have her? All of a sudden you just hear, Roger, you are such a moron. Doesn't this guy know he has to get the green ball back over the net? And then she'd come back to the GM, sir, could we please get the money back? Is there anything that you could do to help us? The GM is cracking up. He's got the mute on and he's laughing, not at the lady, but just at the situation, of course. And she would be talking. She'd go, this guy is blind, Roger. He doesn't even know what he's doing. Why would you pick him? This shows how stupid you are. My mother was right about you. And that throws that line out at him, and we're just cracking up. Now the GM is sitting there. He knows he's going to give the money back no matter what. And he just says, ma'am, listen, there's nothing we can do with the match that's going on. You have to talk to I guess at then it was the fiance. You have to talk to your fiance. This is an issue between the two of you. After the match is over, give us a call back and we'll see if there's anything that we can do for you. Call ends there. The guy ends up winning the match. The one that he bet on ends up winning. He lost the first set, wins the next three because it was at Wimbledon. And the next day, wins the bet. The guy calls in like a puppy dog later. Can I get a wire of the funds out? Blah, blah. Gets his wire back. And I would love to do where are they now between Roger and Judy as to how that marriage went.
Yes. Unbelievable. I'm glad it won. He was able to hang on. So you mentioned last time you were on that our duffel bag boys, there's several of them, and it happens on a regular basis. How about crazy stories about FedEx cash coming in FedEx all the time?
Absolutely. People think it's just a once in a while sort of thing, perhaps offshore, but it happened regularly. You would just get a FedEx package in the mail. You go, oh, it's more money. It just became normal. And they'd open it up offshore and they'd dump it out. And here's $100,000 and here's $200,000 and here's $500,000 and here's $300,000. Different people, all different times. And they're posting up because, you're not, unless you have a Street Connect or something like that, when you're dealing offshore directly, you got to post up. So they're getting cash because it's a way they can hide it and whatever else from perhaps wives and so on. And they would get $100,000 in their account. We would call them up and say, okay, your money's in, you're good to go. By 3 hours later, they didn't even bet the games they wanted to bet. They had already lost it in like craps or blackjack.
Oh.
And now they want to, that was constant. Now they want to bet on the weekend. Maybe it's, for example, this weekend, maybe they want to bet on the Women's French Open final. They're out of money. They can't FedEx, technically with Saturday, but they couldn't get the cash potentially there fast enough. So now they want credit. Now they're trying to figure out how can they get more money because the $100,000 is sat for all of 2 hours and was blown immediately on craps, blackjack, whatever. Then you have other guys who just send it in. They're firing bets left and right. They're already have their $500,000 in action before you told them it's in there. Okay, can you give me this? Boom. There's the $500,000 already spread out amongst a bunch of bets.
Wow. So I want $500,000 on a big football game on a Sunday. Can you put it in for me? Yes, no problem. And on Saturday night or Sunday morning, they're firing $10,000 a hand playing blackjack.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because they couldn't sit still. It's just that action that they needed. They're firing. It's the old thing of, all right, I got $500,000 there. I got $200,000 there. And 220 would be better because then I could bet 220 to win 200. So let me see if I can get that extra $20,000 that I didn't send. Mm-hmm. And to get that extra $20,000 that you didn't send, so you could place your bet, you end up going down to $20,000 from your $200,000, and now you're trying to figure out how do you get the bet down that you wanted. Now they're chasing with a 4-team parlay to play the same thing, and it just goes into the abyss at that point.
That's when they turn into duffel bag boy. Give me $20,000 on a college football parlay where I'm laying 89 points combined.
That's right.
Right. Absolutely. Or they're buying a ton of points. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
People are going out there and they're, the spread is 4. Well, I'm going to buy it down to 2.5 and lay 160. Oh, great. We'll take that all day long because you have to win 61.54% of your bets at minus 160 to even break even. So go right ahead. Have good luck.
Yeah. 2 minutes left, Jeff. Anything you like? The tennis finals, NBA, NHL, anything on the card that you like?
So tonight, I really like Edmonton tonight. This is just my opinion. So, there hasn't really been any material sharp action on it. At best, you have some public money coming in on Florida. But I think the momentum that they had in the last game, I think it'll carry forward here. They kind of had a wake-up call early in the game, and I like seeing teams that get that wake-up call. It happens in tennis a lot. We're talking about tennis handicapping. You see that there's a player who's down in a match that shouldn't be. They come back, claw by the fingertips. They win that match. And then the next match, they just dominate. And I think that might be the case with Edmonton tonight. So I do like Edmonton. The other thing I'm looking at is in the Belmont. I can't bet favorites in horse racing. There's just no money there. I'd rather lose on taking a long shot than win a ticket, even money on a favorite that shouldn't be priced at that. So I like Crudo. It's 15-1 in the Belmont. It's worth some pizza money. Todd Pletcher is awesome in the Belmont. He's a 4-time winner. He definitely knows the race, knows the distance. Velasquez is the jockey. For people who, 15-1 might be too much to play on a win bet, play it to show. If you can get another price in there in the top 3, that show price will pay decently. It could pay, easily 2-1, even money at worst, but you could get 3, 4, 5 times on your money depending on what other horses come in there with him. And that's, of course, if he can get in there. The weather could help him make the race a mess, and that opens it up for some prices to get there. So I'm hoping Crudo is one of them.
Great to talk to you. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on again, guys. I can't thank you enough. It was awesome, Mitch and Paul. Thank you.
You got
it. That was a great 30 minutes. Yep.
Great stories.
The Sharp Plays and sharpplays.com.
Yes. And if you want a free subscription, you can tweet at VSiN Live. The Pacers, if they're able to pull off this upset, series price was 5-1. The last team in the NBA Finals to cash as a 5-1 dog. They won in 5 games. Give me that team at VSiN Live to get a free subscription to the Sharp Plays. I mean, I'd take the bet. Malinsky told that story before he passed. That if the guy was down and he wanted $20,000 in the WrestleMania match, I'm sure he was laying juice. Significant favor. Just give it to the guy, right?
I think Jeff needs to be a weekly guest.
Very good.
That was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
Up next, series prices, Game 2 numbers, NBA Final, and Stanley Cup. Based on the messages I received after Game 1, let's just say people are not a big fan of this dude after last night.